Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
It's our unit on life as we proceed through the month of October in the year 2021. And remember, over last year and much of the year before that, we were under the influence of the pandemic. And I suppose it's still with us as we speak right now. But of course, a lot of us had to work at home and a lot of us had to study at home. So today, our lesson is in the form of an essay written by somebody who studied from home. And this person is going to tell us all about it.
I thought the tips on this, or in this essay, were really good. Probably some of our listeners are out of school. They've graduated and a lot of people had to work from home. I thought these were really great tips. And there were tips that I could use because sometimes Tom and I edit scripts at home and sometimes it's hard to focus. So, yeah, let's get started. We'll share with you what one of the readers thought about this. Tips for, I think, making the most of studying from home, doing better with studying from home. Let's get started.
Hi, readers. Like many students around the world, I've been studying from home out of necessity. It was tough at first, but I made some changes. Now I can study from home or on campus equally well. Here are some solutions that worked for me. 1. Establish a routine. At first, I took it easy, and I accomplished next to nothing as a result. Now I get up, have breakfast, and get ready just like a real school day. I always get dressed, too. I try to follow the same routine every day. Furthermore, I build some regular physical activity into my routine to keep my energy levels up. 2. Have a dedicated study area. I use my dining room as most of the time no one's in there. Whether it's the living room, the kitchen, or even the basement, try to separate this area from where you relax. This way, you can keep your academic stress in one room. Besides, it helps keep your study area free from distractions. 3. Avoid multitasking. I struggled with this. I'd try to do household chores at the same time as I studied, and I failed. In the end, I figured out that I can do chores when I am less productive at my studies just before lunch. I hope these tips work for you.
Let's take a look at the title first, guys. It says, make the most of studying from home. If you make the most of something, you don't waste an opportunity. You try to get as much out of that opportunity as possible. Sometimes you only have one chance to do something, like maybe you only get one chance to go to an amusement park, and you've been waiting to do this your whole life. Well, if you make the most of the opportunity, it means you go to every ride you can. You eat as much food as you can. You do as much as you can so that when you get home, you don't feel like you wasted the opportunity. So to waste something or not make the most of something means you are wasting an opportunity. So we're going to make the most of studying from home. It's not easy to be in lockdown where you can't go outside and either you're a student or you're a business person. I had a lot of friends who had kids at home who were trying to take classes, through Zoom, who also needed to use their computer to attend some business meetings for their job. So it was tough. How can you really make the most of a bad situation? Or you could also say making the best of a bad situation. Some of this requires some different methods, different thinking. I know that I had to change my way of thinking a lot.
Indeed. So, yes, if something bad happens to you as well, you can use this phrase. Like maybe your girlfriend broke up with you and you're all sad and depressed and heartbroken.
Yeah.
Well, someone might say, make the most of it or make the best of it. There are still lots of fish in the sea, lots of fish in the ocean. There are lots of other people out there that might be even better for you than that old girlfriend of yours.
Tom, I wanted to mention, if it's a bad situation, then you make the best of a bad situation. If it's a good situation, make the most of it.
Indeed. So I guess make the best of a bad situation and make the most of a situation that is generally good. And I suppose a lot of us would think that studying from home is convenient. You don't have to, catch the bus and spend time in transit and things like that.
True.
So, yeah, you want to make the most of it. You want to make it most effective. So here in the first paragraph, it says, "Hi, readers. Like many students around the world, I've been studying from home out of necessity." Now, necessity refers to when you actually need to do something or you need to have something. So if it's out of necessity, that means you need to do it. You absolutely have to do it. I got a job out of necessity. I didn't have enough money to pay my rent, and my parents refused to pay my rent for me. So yes, out of necessity, I got a job.
Or this week I ran low on funds, so out of necessity, I had to make something from what I had in the refrigerator at home. Even though it probably wasn't very tasty to me, I'd rather go outside and get something because picking up something outside usually means I'm going to have a better dinner. So, yeah, out of necessity, some people had to study from home or work from home. So, yeah, our writer says it was tough at first, but I made some changes. And now our writer says I can study from home or on campus equally well. So it doesn't really impact how well our writer studies or how much he gets done. He can either be at home or on campus. When you talk about the campus, guys, you're talking about more than just one building. For example, a university has lots of different buildings, and you walk between them. But the university owns all of the land that those buildings are on. So all of that land, those buildings would be considered the campus. So this person has learned how to either study from home or on campus and do well in either place. So that's pretty important. Here are some solutions that he's offered that actually worked for him.
Okay, so here's his first tip or his first bit of advice. Establish a routine. Now here, routine is a noun. It just refers to the sequence of actions that you do every day or in certain situations. So your daily routine would consist of getting up in the morning, getting dressed, having breakfast, waiting for the bus, going to work or school, etc., etc. That is your daily routine. And in this particular case that we're talking about, the items that you do in a certain kind of order, and you need to establish that routine. You need to set that up. You need to understand exactly what you're going to do every day and what the individual steps are and the order of those individual steps.
Right. For example, I usually get up at the same time during the week, but on the weekends, sometimes I'll stay up later thinking I can sleep in. But it upsets my routine, and I don't get as much done. So having a routine can really save you some time. If you always do the same things when you get up in the morning, you usually can do them more quickly, and that's a routine. So at first, he says, I took it easy. Yeah, I think everyone felt that way. Oh, I'm at home. I can relax a little bit more. And it says I accomplished next to nothing. Next to nothing means hardly anything. So if it's nothing, it means you got 0 done. Next to nothing would be like a 1 or a 2. You didn't get much done, but you got a little done. To accomplish something really means you worked hard at something. Maybe you trained for it. You practiced it for a long time. Maybe your accomplishment is to graduate from college. You know that that's not easy. You have to study and write papers and go to class, things like that. So if you accomplish something, you should feel pretty good about yourself.
That's right, but of course you're working at home or you're studying at home, so you need to accomplish stuff. You need to learn your lessons, you need to do your homework and stuff like that. And this person took it easy, he relaxed too much. I'm home, so why do I need to work? Home is a place to relax. But, he did not get much done here. So now he says he has established a routine. I get up, I have breakfast, and get ready just like a real school day. I always get dressed, too. That's kind of surprising. I would have thought that if you're working at home or if you're studying at home, you can dress very casually. You don't have to put on a suit and a tie. I suppose if you're working at home, you wouldn't necessarily have to put on a suit and a tie if you're a guy. But if you're going to have those online meetings, you probably do have to look your best, at least from the waist up.
I think it affects your attitude. I know I was having church at home, too, during this period of time. And I noticed that if I didn't get dressed up like I was going to church, I treated the day and the meetings differently. So I think it has something to do with your attitude. So sometimes it's good to get up, get dressed. Don't stay in your pajamas all day, people. Get your clothes on. You'll get more done. So it says here, I try to follow the same routine every day. Furthermore, or in addition, I build some regular physical exercise into my routine to keep my energy levels up.
Indeed. So that's the first step, the first bit of advice here to establish a routine. And we'll talk about some more tips as our lesson continues in just a couple of seconds. But right now, we need to listen to our Chinese teacher.
听众朋友大家好，我是安娜。我们今天要来谈谈，如果又要在家线上上课的时候，到底该做什么样的准备才能够让我们的学习更有效率呢？因为这个新冠肺炎的关系，真的是，平常在家的时候，在家就是要休闲嘛，看电视嘛，打电动啊，看闲书啊。现在要在家学习真的很困难，所以我们今天要提供几个比较不错、有效率的方法，让大家在家上课，停课不停学的同时，还能有效率的学习。不过在开始之前呢，我们要注意一下第一段第二句的地方，因为作者这时候说其实我跟世界各地的学生一样，因为需要的关系，就在家开始在家线上上课。好，所以第一条到底怎么样让在家学习有效率呢？就是要建立一个 routine， 你要建立常规，因为课表就是那样走，几点该做什么事就怎么样子。所以你在家学习一样，跟真正上课的上学日一样，要做好准备哦。尤其特别要穿戴整齐。我们看一下第三句 get dressed， 这边很重要。当你起来盥洗之后，吃了早餐，然后要穿个制服，或是穿个有领子、有精神的外出服，这个穿戴整齐就很重要了。所以每天呢，都试着遵循同样的一个常规。当然，除此之外，还要加入一些固定的体育活动啦，有精神，头脑有氧气，学习才会有效率。所以我们同样看一下第一个建立常规这边最后面第5句的地方。好，这里有一个转折词语叫做 furthermore。 furthermore 很好用哦，除此之外，尤其是像我们在介绍一些说明文，你大概可以有哪些做法，怎么样做，第一步第二步，除此之外还有什么什么。除了这个 furthermore 之外呢，另外还常用的，例如像是 moreover moreover What's more WHATEPS more 甚至是 in addition in 第一个字，第二个字叫做 ADDITION， 或者你可以直接用副词 additionally ADDITIONALLY， 甚至是我们待会儿会讲到的第二个方法，拥有专用学习区的第4句前面这个 besides 也可以先圈起来哦。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're talking about some tips here to make the most of studying from home. Of course, as people who are working here, Stephanie and myself do need to consider working from home since we're no longer students. But of course, many of our dear listeners are students in school, and a lot of you, if not all of you, had to go through this. You had to study from home or study at home. You could say either one, but you needed to make the most of it. You needed to have it the most beneficial. And we talked about some of the tips here. The first tip we talked about was to establish a routine. Okay, make it like your everyday activities. You get up in the morning, you have breakfast, you get ready, you get dressed too, and you try to follow that same routine every day. And then also, we were talking about building some regular physical activity into your routine. So yeah, don't just sit there in front of the computer all day long or with your books or whatever. Get up from time to time and stretch, maybe do some yoga or whatever.
Go outside and take a walk.
Yes, if you could. I think you weren't required to stay indoors during the lockdowns there. So yeah, go outside for a short stroll or something like that. Get some fresh air. So there you have it. That's all part of establishing a routine. Now, what's the second bit of advice, Stephanie?
This is tip number 2. Have a dedicated study area. Usually when we see this word dedicated, it usually means you're devoted to some sort of person or task, and you're very loyal to that person, or you spend a lot of time doing something. But here, this is kind of a special usage. It just means something, and we're talking about a thing, is exclusively used or intended for a particular service or activity. And so here, this area would only be used for studying and not for other things like playing computer games or things like that. So it says here, our writer says, I use my dining room as most of the time no one's in there. That's a good idea. You want to get away from people if you can. My apartment is quite small. There's only me there, but still it's quite small, so I don't have a lot of choices. But it says whether it's in the living room, the kitchen, or even the basement, try to separate this one area from where you relax. If you can, that's a really good tip. Good piece of advice.
Indeed, and of course, this tip here mentions a basement, which is common in Western houses. They're common in the USA, but not so much here. I don't think I've met anybody in Taiwan who actually has a basement, or maybe I just haven't been lucky enough to meet somebody whose house has a basement. But this is a common part of houses in Western countries and other parts of the world as well. So yeah, you might consider having your study room be in the basement as well. But the idea is to separate this area from where you relax, so that you've established this area as the area where you study, and then you're not going to slack off in that area so much. And this way, you can keep your academic stress in one room. So yes, learning in school can be quite stressful, and if it does have to do with your studies, or if it does have to do with school, then we use the adjective academic. Academic. Of course, if you're going to school, you want to have some academic achievement, like good grades, for example.
Right. This is, of course, an adjective. The noun is academia, which is kind of weird because it looks like you would say academia to sort of copy the pronunciation of the adjective form. But we say academia. It's a long E vowel, which is kind of weird. But yeah, this way you can keep your academic stress in one room. Try to avoid stress as much as you can. That makes you sick, and you don't want that. Besides, it says it helps keep your study area free from distractions. What's a distraction? Well, for me, it would be the internet.
That would probably be a distraction for everybody.
I know. Online shopping. It depends on what distracts you. I think for some of our listeners, it would be maybe video games, things like that, your phone. Sometimes I have to turn off my phone so that I don't answer every text that comes in or line message. That can be a distraction.
That would be difficult. That would be asking a lot of people to turn off their phone or put it in the other room. That's just something people nowadays just can't live without. But again, you want to reduce those distractions so you can focus on your studies And yes, you need to keep your academic stress in one room and keep your study area free from those distractions. Okay, now here's the third bit of advice here. To avoid multitasking. That's when you try to do two or more things at the same time. This is something I'm guilty of when I'm working at home. I'm supposed to be editing a script, but, I open several tabs on my computer. One, of course, is the document that I'm supposed to be looking at, and then I've got another window open that's online music streaming, so I can listen to music while I'm doing that. And then I've got another tab open in case I get some messages or something like that. So by the time I've finished, I need to close about 6 or 7 different windows, and I probably didn't really get much done. So yeah, you got to avoid multitasking. Focus on that one thing that you need to do.
Yeah, a lot of people, at least in the West, like to say that women are better at multitasking than men. But I think it's hard for anyone. I think a lot of moms have to multitask. That's just the nature of being a mother, especially if you have more than one child. But yeah, multitasking is often not a good thing to do, especially if you have a deadline or something that you must get done. You don't want to multitask or try to accomplish too many tasks at the same time. Tom was mentioning he likes to listen to music and then check out messages that come in. Yeah, those would be distractions sometimes for a lot of us, so be careful with the other things you're trying to do. When you have something that's very important, that you finish it. So avoid multitasking. Try to get away from that. And then our writer confesses, I struggled with this. Oh, yeah, that's totally me. I try to get more than one thing done at the same time, but we often fail at getting the most important things done. The writer says, I tried to do household chores at the same time as I studied, and I failed. Household chores would be doing the dishes, cleaning the floor, making your bed, putting things away, as you get home. Sometimes if I've had a busy day, the next day, I try to get up and hang clothes up and put things away where they should be so my apartment doesn't look like a mess. So yeah, try to just focus on one thing at a time if you can.
Yeah, I can imagine that if you're attending an online class or something and the lecturer, the professor is lecturing, you could step away from the computer, use Bluetooth headphones or something like that while the professor is talking. And yeah, like you said, you could go into the kitchen and try to wash some dishes or collect the garbage or whatever. So those are some examples of multitasking there. You're listening to the lecture, but you're also trying to do household chores. But our writer here kind of advises us not to do that. Avoid multitasking. You're best to sit at the desk or your table and pay attention to the professor. Give the professor your undivided attention. So yes, as the writer here says, I tried to do this and I tried to do these things at the same time that I studied, but I failed. I was unsuccessful, and in the end, finally, I figured out that I can do chores when I am less productive at my studies just before lunch. Now, here we've got the word to figure something. I figure just means I thought that was the case. I realized that. And, of course, this is a two-word verb phrase. I figured out. You can figure something out. You could maybe, looking at your text messages from your girlfriend or something, and eventually you could figure out that she's seeing someone else. Oh, no.
Yeah, so if you figure out something, you're solving something. You're resolving something. We use it a lot when we're faced with a mystery or, lots of clues, but we don't really know what's going on to figure out. We often figure out the answers to math problems. So this person understood or figured out that he could do chores when he's less productive, maybe when you're too hungry to focus or maybe too sleepy. I've told myself that. I will do the dishes when I'm too tired to think. So those are some ideas from our essay writer, which I think are pretty great. Someone who's going to help us a little bit more is our Chinese teacher. Let's listen now.
所以这些当我们在列举或者是说明，除此之外还有什么什么的这些转折词语，除了翻译跟作文很好用之外，当然在学测或者是考题当中，所谓的课漏字当中，也是特别喜欢出这样子的一个文意转折，因为你必须先看得懂文章，你才知道作者接下来是要再补充说明哪些其他的东西。好，那么接下来呢，第二个方法就是要有一个自己的一个专属的学习区域，这个区域特别是 dedicated to you， 就是你特别在学习的时候在用的那个 study area。 好，所以除了我们刚刚看到第4句第一个这个 besides 之外，我们要回过头来看一下这个专有的学习区域呢，因为你只要进到这个区域，你的头脑就会有一种感觉，我要学习。那你离开了这个地方，你就会知道你要放松，就像我们平常在学校会比较紧绷，回到家我们就放松一样。所以在家里要有一个规划的一个 dedicated study area。 不过在这一段当中，第一句中间我们看到一个 as 如果当连接词就有几种意思啊，可以是 when because 如同好像，我们只能够根据文意上下文去推断它是什么意思，在这里是 because 的意思。好，那么接下来呢，我们最后看到同样这一段的最后一个字叫做 distraction。 distraction 就是让你分心的事物，它的动词叫做 distract， D-I-S-T-R-A-C-T。 那我们常会说啊，如果读书的时候旁边还有手机啦，或者是旁边电视还在放什么连续剧啦，这样子我会分心。分心通常会讲 get distracted， G-E-T，然后后面的 distracted 用 PP D-I-S-T-R-A-C-T-E-D get distracted。 所以如果你有自己的一个专属学习区域，就算它很小，至少你把手机什么都拿开，至少不会受到干扰， You don't get distracted。 好，那么当然除此之外呢，还有一些别的做法啦，比如说很重要的是不要 multitask， avoid multitasking。Multitasking 就是所谓的一心多用，比如说我们读书的时候呢，手机还放在旁边，想一下你就看一下 Line， 然后谁又推了什么东西， IG 又有什么动态，尽量避免一心多用。当然除了手机之外还有很多别的事啊，你可能觉得老师在讲的这些东西我大概知道吧，不然我现在下来折衣服好了或什么之类。如果你一心多用，效率就会很低，就像这个作者说的。不过我们同样在这一段当中特别注意一下，第一句大概在中间后面一点点又出现了一个 as。 我们刚刚说过 as 如果当连接词有 when because 如同好像，在这里的 as 根据上下文推断则是 when 的意思，非常好。好，所以呢接下来呢我们最后要总结一下，到底怎么样在家上课有效率呢？第一个一定要有建立常规，接下来呢要有专用的学习区域，再来就是不要一心多用哦。加油，我是安娜，我们下次见。
That brings us to the end of our lesson for today, and these are some good tips for us if we still need to study at home, and they might be good tips for us if we're at school as well. Focus on your work there. Don't let those distractions get the best of you, and we wish you the best of luck in your academic career. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.